is up, YouTube? Welcome to the Harold McBasketball Show channel. This is the co-host of the podcast, I Know Ball Paul, bringing you a series that I came up with involving the Fanspo trade machine and the NBA Trade Ideas subreddit. This idea came to me, it happened because I was messing around on Fanspo, which is a great NBA trade machine site, as I'm sure many of you basketball heads know. And I started posting my trade ideas to the NBA Trade Ideas subreddit, and was humbled. They are strong critics there, and I will share some of the responses I received. But I figured we would kind of recreate the trades that I came up with. I would take you through my reasoning, which I will admit was questionable at times, but I think it would make for a fun video idea, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, let's get into it. Alrighty, so my first brilliant trade idea is between the Nuggets and the Clippers. I was keen on making a trade with the Nuggets because I feel that the West has kind of been passing them by. They lack a lot of depth. Their three-point shooting as a team has been pretty horrible. Essentially, it's Jokic's prime. He's 29 years old. They need to make a move to be strong contenders. And, they are contenders, without a doubt. I think there's a very strong chance they're back in the finals. But, I feel that they should consider a move that really solidifies them as a strong contender. So Kawhi Leonard, I feel like the Clippers losing Paul George has kind of made them fall out of the contender category. I mean, last year they finished fourth in the West, but it didn't feel at any point that they had a real chance of making it far, yet alone, any chance of winning the championship. Even if they were, I think, relatively healthy, I think it would have been a tough bid. But as I find out when I post this to the Reddit, the Clippers obviously have none of their own picks. They traded those all to the Thunder in the infamous SGA trade, which is insane. Yeah, they traded all their picks and SGA for Paul George. Regardless, my thinking here was Kawhi Leonard, if healthy, we know what he's capable of. And the Clippers get back Michael Porter Jr., who's, 7 years younger than Kawhi. He's an excellent player. I think he'd be a solid fit next to someone like Harden. I think it could keep them fun, but it would definitely kind of put them more into a rebuilding mode. That being said, making this trade, I had not realized that the Clippers have none of their own picks, as I was kindly reminded on the subreddit. I figured also the Clippers would get some young talent. Again, the Nuggets don't have the most promising young players. I am personally pretty hot on Julian Strawther. He's kind of this combo guard. He's 6'7". He's looked really nice in the preseason. I think he's only 22 years old. Christian Brown, we've seen his impact in the finals a couple years ago, but we haven't really seen him take that next step. So not the hottest prospect. And Zeke Nagy, maybe also not the hottest prospect. But hey, the Clippers, I feel like, are kind of in a beggars can't be choosers situation. I was told that they could get a lot more for Kawhi and that they wouldn't be interested in this package. In retrospect, yeah, I mean, these young players are not, I think going to be great borderline all-star players in the next few years, but I thought it made them younger and it made them more interesting. I also included a 2031 first-round pick. I wish we could pretend it was like top 10 protected. I didn't know how to do that with this first trade. But obviously, the Nuggets would probably not give up a first-round pick without any protections. To make the financials work a bit better, the Clippers also include Nick Batum. I figured a veteran player like Nick Batum couldn't hurt, and that the Nuggets would be interested. So here is my trade on the NBA Trade Ideas subreddit. I included in the description that I think the Clippers would have to really be struggling early to make a trade like this. I mentioned that I was hot on Strother, but, him and Brown would have to prove that they are, on their way to being good role players early in this season. Again, I didn't know how to put a protected pick on there, but I wish that 2031 pick said, top 10 protected. I don't think the Nuggets would feel comfortable giving an unprotected pick so far in the future. But let's look at these comments. So immediately the first comment, I was reminded that they do not have their picks, the Clippers I am talking of. So bruh, how they gonna start a rebuild without their picks? How do I see what I said? I got downvoted to shit. I said by trading for young talent, like in my trade, the young talent I'm referring to, I consider Michael Porter Jr. borderline young, and he's very talented. I was also referring to Julian Strother and Christian Brown, but I know that young talent, I think they are both promising. They could be good role players in a few years, even great role players, but that earned me -7 votes. This user said Clippers don't have control of their picks and they are opening a new stadium. That's another big thing, that they're opening a new stadium. So financials, I think, are very important for them this year, and trading away a star like Kawhi Leonard doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's not something I considered at all. But these subredditors were pretty kind to remind me. So, this guy actually was an insightful comment. He says the Clippers are more likely to trade for a disgruntled star, maybe like Ingram, so that they can be competitive for the next few years while they have their new stadium. Yeah, I acknowledge that he is right, and that I didn't take that into account. And actually, this guy was awesome. He said the talent and asset exchange is fine. Then he goes on to say the unprotected pick makes no sense, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually one of the very few positive comments I got where he says the asset exchange is fine. And that's a big win for me, especially for my first trade idea. These comments then remind me the Clippers have a new arena. They're not going to do it. Why would the Nuggets do this? I think that's mostly what's noteworthy. This guy says he'd rather have MPJ than Kawhi. I think he said it from the point of view of a Nuggets fan. And so, that's interesting. Overall, people seem to think neither team would really do this, which in some respects is a bit of a win, because as you'll see when most of the comments are like, this one team would not do it, when people are saying, when it's torn between which teams would say no, or if they say both teams wouldn't do it, it's like, it's a bit of a hidden win, I think. Yeah, I think this last comment here sums it up pretty well. Clippers aren't getting enough value here to justify bottoming out without control of their own picks. He says it would be a dream scenario for Denver. So, and here you can see this person says that's not smart for Denver. Kawhi doesn't play enough. Blah, 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 blah. So, for my first one, I think it has clearly some huge flaws, especially that big oversight with the Clippers not having their own picks. But some people said Denver would never do it, and some said the Clippers would never do it. So I take that as a small win, but I see that this trade is definitely deeply flawed. Alrighty, my second trade was between the Spurs and the Cavaliers. I thought, hey, Wemby needs a co-star. The guy is 20 years old, but he has quickly rose to NBA stardom, and that the Spurs need to get as much talent around him as possible. And they made some okay moves this offseason. I know, I think they're not going all in right away, but they got some vets. But I'm thinking go out and get another young talent. So I thought, hey, Darius Garland, who is he's an amazing offensive player. We saw last year he had some injury troubles. We see at times that the Cavs as a team, Harry and I talk a lot about that there's, what's the word? That between Mobley and Jared Allen and between Donovan and Darius Garland, there's a lot of overlap in what these guys contribute, and ultimately as a team, I think sometimes they suffer. But regardless, Darius Garland is an incredible talent. Before Donovan got to the Cavs, this guy was averaging, I think, close to 20 points, 8 assists, great shooter, incredible handles. So with all that being said, this is the trade that I felt like I really didn't do a great job at. I really undersold Darius Garland's value, as you can see with how I'm talking him up right now. But I was thinking the Cavs, like I stated, they have the great guards, the great big men. They don't have a lot of forward depth. And the forward depth that they do have, they're, guys like Max Strus are not exactly like defensive-minded wings. So I thought, hey, the Spurs have a great young wing in Keldon Johnson. A good young wing in Keldon Johnson. We saw that last year. He took a bit of a step back, I think naturally with how the Spurs evolved since getting Wemby, but we saw that he can be a great scorer, and he's definitely got a big body that is well utilized on the defensive end. Harrison Barnes is a great wing, but we also saw him take a pretty big step back last year in Sacramento. I think he's down to averaging like 12 points per game. And Trey Jones, not too much to say there. I mean, he's an interesting enough young prospect, brother of Tyus Jones, who is quite good. He's kind of a very pure point guard, but ultimately not a huge talent. And I really do look at this trade as I undersold the hell out of Darius Garland. And I think maybe if the Spurs include a first-round pick that's lightly protected, especially in this year's draft, which people are saying is going to be a great draft. Obviously, I think there's no way that the Spurs don't protect at least within the top 5. I think it would be top 5 protected for sure, but maybe that's the protection that allows them to get a Darius Garland. And then Isaac Okoro was included for money reasons and, just to add a forward to San Antonio, who is losing a few or 2 forwards there. So yeah, I posted it on the super positive NBA trade ideas subreddit, and I got blasted. This is a Lakers fan level lopsided trade. Goodness gracious, the Cavs get fucked. I do appreciate the, calling Lakers fans delusional. Obviously, I'm a Celtics fan, which is a bit ironic. I don't think he's calling me a Lakers fan, but he's saying that's how delusional I'm being. Christ, I know Spurs fans are eager to begin dominating with Wemby on the board, but enough with the Spurs gets tar, other team gets shit trades. 15 upvotes. Again, I'm at 0 upvotes on mine. I wish if anyone from that community is listening, I get that there's a lot of bad trades that go through, but people are trying, and we're putting content out there for you guys to give your opinions on. You guys don't have to downvote the post. Like, it's not like I'm being malicious, but anyway, maybe I'm coping. Yeah, this guy is nice to say, or not to say any insults, and just kind of saying the Cavs would want more. I don't think Keldon Johnson is someone they'd necessarily target. You get a lot of these. This team laughs and hangs up. This guy passionately asked me if I watched Barnes last year. Reminds me that Garland made an all-star team. I totally think the pick would need to be included. I think this is probably the worst trade I came up with. And yeah, let's see. Last of all, this guy says that San Antonio doesn't have the type of assets. You know, overall, I mean, obviously I underestimated Garland. I do think Garland's a great player, but obviously I tremendously underrated him, and I acknowledge that fully. And these guys were very kind to remind me. This guy even says he's not that high on Garland, but it's pretty lopsided, and that they would have to add several picks. So yeah, there you have it. That's another kind, some kind messages there on the NBA Trade Ideas subreddit. Alrighty, trade number 3. Will I get some positive responses? Will anyone think that my trade is of any value? Let's see. So this is a trade once again involving the Denver Nuggets, centered around Michael Porter Jr. I don't know. I think Michael Porter Jr.'s contract just makes it easy for some of these trades. I do acknowledge the irony that Michael Porter Jr. is their best shooter. He is notorious for just letting it fly, not really passing it, and he shoots the ball extremely well. I think he's a 40% three-point shooter. He's huge. He's a sniper. Why would the Nuggets get rid of him? Okay, I acknowledge that. So there's a bit of a logical flaw there. But with that in mind, I kind of still made this trade thinking, you know, if the Nuggets were to get back a few players that are decent three-point shooters, it would help them more than just having one guy that's a great spot-up shooter. You know, I think Michael Porter Jr.'s contract is not terrible. I think he's worth about that much, but it's a big contract. And I think maybe that the Nuggets would be interested in finding a way to trade it and get a little bit more financial flexibility. And we've seen that, you know, with letting KCP walk. Granted, he signed for, I think, like $20 million. He got way too much money, so I don't blame them there. But they also let Bruce Brown walk. You know, they're not a team that wants to pay a role player 15 or 20 million. They don't want to operate in the second apron. And I think reasonably so. But anyway, so they trade Michael Porter Jr. and they get back Kyle Kuzma. I like Kyle Kuzma. I get that. I think his reputation has been a bit damaged by this last year on the Wizards, with just how much of a mess that team is and how unserious their brand of basketball is. But I don't know. Kyle Kuzma is a great player. You know, not an amazing career three-point shooter. I think he shoots probably 35% on his career. He was not shooting well last year at all. I think shot about 32%. You know, I think he tends to shoot a lot worse when he's one of the top guys on the team. I think I saw that when he was on that Lakers team that was really bad. He shot, you know, low 30s, same with last year. But he has the potential to shoot like 35% which he did on some of those good Lakers teams when he was playing with LeBron, for example. So I digress. The Wizards trade Kyle Kuzma, Saddiq Bey, and Corey Kispert. Saddiq Bey I included in this. I was like, wow, he is on a great contract. He did not have an awesome year last year on the Hawks. He shot it pretty poorly, I think around 32%. The way I'm set up right now, I can't really fact check, unfortunately, but I know he didn't shoot well or play particularly well last year on the Hawks, and then I believe he even tore his ACL, which when I did this trade, I did overlook that fact, but you know, I think he should be back maybe halfway through this season. I think he tore it in March or February of last year, so if his recovery goes according to plan, I think he's not set to miss the entire season. Corey Kispert's a great three-point shooter. Again, I'm like, the Nuggets get 3 good role players. Kuzma, I think, is super versatile offensively. He's pretty good defensively. He rebounds it well. I think he's a lot more versatile than Michael Porter. And again, I get that he's not the shooter, but I was like, hey, maybe Saddiq, Corey, and Kuzma combined can kind of make up for Michael Porter Jr. Brown is involved kind of for financial reasons. Also, you know, get the Wizards a young player there that they might be interested in. They could probably sub out Julian Strawther if they prefer him. I would prefer him. But yeah, the Wizards get, you know, the younger players in the deal here. They, I think, have the financial flexibility there. And honestly, I don't think this trade is too bad. Maybe worth mentioning, Corey Kispert is a restricted free agent. I think that he has like a qualifying offer of like $7 million, but I'm like, I don't know. He's a tall sniper. Like, why wouldn't the Nuggets take that? $7 million is reasonable, I think. Especially he's making less than $6 million this year. Like, come on, that's a decent deal. So let us see what the subreddit has to say. Oh, shoot. There it is. Oh, look at that. 24 comments. I think some of them I reply more to comments, so then I get a bit more engagement. As you can see, still no likes, no upvotes, 0 upvotes. And I will reiterate, I actually think this is a decent trade. I think that the Nuggets would consider this for financial reasons. They save, you know, $3 million in cap, a lot of versatility there. And I think the Wizards, hey, they'll take a younger player in Michael Porter Jr. Christian Brown is somewhat promising, and Julian Strawther if they prefer. I think this was my best trade, potentially. But let's see the comments. A lot of the comments are basically Denver says no. This guy says without too much thought. You know, people mention that Bey is going to be out for a while. I don't think he's going to miss the whole season, but I think that is a fair point. This guy says, not sure why the Kispert Brown piece is there either. I like Kispert, but Brown's defense makes him both a safer bet to scale and better fit. I don't totally agree. I think I actually replied to this guy. Yeah, I said Kispert I think is more valuable. I mean, he's the far better three-point shooter, which the Nuggets desperately need. I don't think Kuz is that much of a downgrade. People, I guess, are way hotter on MPJ. I'm pretty hot on MPJ, but I also think Kuz is a very valuable player on a solid contract. Yeah, I don't know. He says probably for the best that Washington fans just stop trying to deal Kuzma if that's what is honestly thought his value to be. This one, again, okay, definitely the majority are saying Denver hangs up, the classic Denver laughs. fuck you for people that comment that. Denver laughs as they say no and hang up the phone. Like, you're a loser. I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, I don't know. It's also funny when they're like, Denver is high on this player. It's like, you don't know that. You don't know what they think. Maybe I'm coping. Oh, this guy gave me a nice essay, but when they say both teams should say no, two negatives sometimes it makes a positive, right? And no, I don't think, I think both teams saying no is not both teams really saying yes, but it's kind of a win for me, I think, in a way, because it's not just one team laughing and hanging up the phone. He says the Wizards would want picks back, at least a first rounder. I kind of disagree. I think, again, I think financially is the big one. I think Denver is financially conscious, but sorry, I guess he's saying the Wizards would want picks. And yeah, I guess they would, but, you know, again, we're getting like Kuzma is not this valuable, blah, 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 and then you get, oh, they would want picks. Is Kuzma okay coming off the bench? Okay, this guy, I don't want to read this. Feel free to pause and read it. I didn't think it was, I don't know. I don't have the brain power to read this. Maybe he makes some great points. I'm not saying this trade isn't possible, but I think there are some questions and better player combinations. Well, I'm sure there are. This guy says Lakers say no, so I hit him with the... even that got downvoted. What the fuck? Like, the Lakers are not involved, obviously. I'm not logged in. Okay. Wizards say no. So as you can see, this one I like because we get a lot of Denver say no, and then we get the Wizards say no. Easy no from Wizards. But yeah, definitely more Denver. Denver no. Obviously Denver. Why would the Wizards want a bad contract in Porter Jr. instead of a first-round pick for Kuzma? That's another thing. People always say this, like, if it's not like a top 5 pick, I would rather a 26-year-old proven very good NBA player in Michael Porter Jr. than a first-round pick that I don't know how it's going to pan out. Like, everyone's like, picks. Picks, what do you hope you get from a pick? If you have a 3rd or 4th pick, and that guy turns out to be Michael Porter Jr., you're pretty damn happy. So why not just take a Michael Porter Jr.? He's 26, for God's sakes. I don't know. As you can see, most people, once again, ripping into me. This one, people are saying definitely Denver says no. We got a couple saying the Wizards wouldn't do it. But again, nobody's saying they like the trade. So anyway. Alrighty, my 4th and final trade. I feel like as I, continued coming up with these trades, I improved. This one I actually posted quite recently to the subreddit, so I'm intrigued to see what the response is. I only read a couple. Spoiler alert, they're still negative and think I'm a dumbass, but that's okay, guys. So kind of talking through my rationale here, starting with the idea that the Pelicans are desperate for a center, or at least they have no center depth. They are planning on starting Herbert Jones at center. That could work. I don't know. They have Daniel Tice, who I'm close with, as people know. But yeah, that's a pretty atrocious big man depth, and so they need one desperately, and I expect them to look for some options there. And so I think, okay, Nikola Vucevic, let's see what we can do with you. So Nikola Vucevic, the Bulls trade him to the Pelicans, and the Pelicans trade CJ McCollum to the Bulls. CJ's a great player. He's still a great player. He's on a pretty hefty contract. I think the Bulls have the cap space to take it on. I could be wrong about that, but The trade machine didn't seem to object. But, the Bulls are in this weird in-between spot where they're not tanking. You have Lonzo Ball coming back. Zach LaVine could be healthy. Kobe White, I'm trading. But, the Bulls have some interesting pieces there. And, unless they really go all in and trading LaVine, Lonzo Ball, here they would be kind of taking a big kind of decision, but they would still be, I think, relatively competitive, which seems to be their MO. But ultimately, they're taking on a big contract. They're still not gonna be tanking or be super competitive, but they get a couple first-round picks out of it. Granted, they are protected, but 2 first-round picks in what I hear is quite a stacked draft. That's not too bad, right? And Vucevic, that's not happening. Kobe White, I get. Bulls fans are quite fond of. I think we've seen how great he's been this last year, but I don't know. I think Kobe White is a good player. I don't think he's like an amazing player. I think last year he averaged like 18-5 on a not great Bulls team. That's pretty good, but come on, he's I don't think he's anything too special. And I saw in some of the early Reddit comments that people are like, wow, Kobe White, like they're getting nothing. I'm sorry, Kobe White, I think is comparable to Cole Anthony in terms of talent. I think Kobe White is a better player. I'm not going to deny that, but I don't think it's that big of a separation. And I think their per 36 is pretty similar. So Kobe White is a lot bigger. I get he's more your standard one. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's a bit overrated. And I think as we look at the Reddit comments, you'll see that people are very keen on him, which is fine. Anyway, so the Bulls kind of take on a big contract in CJ. They get a couple of first-round picks, which, Magic and Pelicans, those could kind of be end of the lottery. I think between 12 and 20. The Magic, I think, are going to be a decent team, which is why theirs is more lightly protected. And the Pelicans, I could see with how good the West is, they could easily fall out of the lottery. Therefore, they protect it lottery. Maybe that gets changed to a top 10 protected, but ultimately, I get that Kobe White is a pretty good young prospect, but getting 2 first-round picks back is not terrible. I guess maybe he is worth more. I'm sure the Redditors will tell me that, but hey, the Bulls need to be looking in a new direction. I think Lonzo Ball's contract expires next year, and then it'll just be Zach LaVine to flip, and yeah. So I do think the Bulls probably get the worst end of this bargain, but I'm like, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Kobe White is on a great contract. Okay, so I'm kind of talking myself out of it, but whatever. Magic get Hawkins and White, which I think would be awesome for them. I think Kobe White is a slight upgrade over Cole Anthony, but he's kind of just, I think, an easier, better fit with their first unit. Cole Anthony doesn't start much, but I think Kobe White, with a bit more size, would probably start. And then Jordan Hawkins is a great young player, and he had some 3-point shooting to the Magic, who that's not their forte. So if I'm the Magic, I'm giving up probably around a 15th overall first round pick, and Cole Anthony, I get back Hawkins and White. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal if I'm the Magic, I'm not gonna lie. And then the Pelicans get their much needed center in Vucevic, and a pretty good combo guard in Cole Anthony, I think, who would play really nicely next to DeJounte. Obviously losing CJ, getting a guard back is super nice. So I think this is a pretty good trade. Maybe the Bulls would have to get a bit more draft capital in order to accept it. I freely admit that the Bulls are probably the ones to say no here, but I think the Pelicans, that's a pretty nice return. Getting a good starting caliber center in Vucevic, and a pretty solid combo guard in Cole Anthony, who I think would do a decent job of replacing CJ McCollum's value. CJ McCollum's the best player in this deal, though. I don't think it's close. I mean, Kobe White in a couple of years will be probably better than CJ McCollum, who's a lot older in a couple of years, but, you know, it's going to, Cole Anthony does a bit to replace that value. CJ is obviously the best player here. Anyway, let us see how our Redditors, our kind-hearted, loving Redditors, reacted to this. Once again, no upvotes. I guess I should be happy that it's not negatives. Maybe it can't go into negatives, but let us see. This guy says, Pels don't want Vooch. Again, this is a typical kind of comment where they just know what the front office is thinking. Oh, I haven't seen this one. It says, I don't know if we don't want Vooch full stop. Yeah, you don't. You don't know what the management is thinking. I get that Vooch has become slightly controversial if he's kind of empty stats kind of guy. But, I mean, come on, he's quality. And I think he would pair decently next to Zion. But we definitely want a different profile for a potential new big under Willie Green and wouldn't see the value that the average team might. In my opinion, he offers a good bit regardless, but still definitely not enough to warrant interest without a crazy deal or offer. Okay, we want a much more mobile player and better defensive contributor. The defensive contributor I get. Adept at defending the pick and roll. Okay, this guy's a Pelicans fan, so I do respect it. Mentally capable of reading and adapting to the defensive side of the game. Vooch offers spacing with his shooting and rebounding. It would be nice to play through against some teams. I don't think they are, Vooch isn't going to be like their 40 minutes a night play through guy. I mean, they'll have a backup in Herb, I guess, but he'd be a nice piece for a team that desperately needs it. In my opinion, if he was on this current team, he would probably start a fair bit, but we would be trying to move on from him, similar to Valanciunas. Okay. Whatever your username is, I actually do kind of respect your reply. If they wanted Vooch, they would have already made a trade for him. Okay, bro. This move is a negative for the Pelicans. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Okay, this guy types an entire essay. I agree. Okay, I'm not going to read all this. Okay, whatever. Really don't understand how this benefits anyone but Orlando. I do agree Orlando probably gets the best end of it, but I think the Pelicans get two really good players. Don't think the Pels want Vucevic. I guess Pelicans fans need to let me know why they're so convinced that they want nothing to do with Vucevic. I guess because he's kind of a Valanciunas dupe. But I don't know. He's a quality starting center, man. He spaces and would definitely open the lanes for Zion. I get defensively it's not ideal, but so is not having a center. Just a bad return for White. Why would they want to trade if that's the return? I get it. There's no way the Bulls are trading Kobe for such heavily protected draft picks. Okay, I would be okay if they were less protected, but ultimately those teams are going to finish, end of the lottery. So it's not like the protection really matters, I think, for this year. But insultingly bad for the Pelicans. Disagree, and you're mean. Bulls would want lighter protections. Okay. Kobe is super valuable. Horrible for the Pels. Thank you, David Griffin. And worse for the Bulls. Holy shit. I've seen some dog shit Bulls trades the last couple of days, but my God, this is pathetic. So, Skull Candy 541 with the classic douche comment. Again, I put this out there. You're free to give your opinion, but come on. I'm just putting this out there for people to react and have fun with it. Yeah, in retrospect, I guess maybe make the picks more lightly protected, even though I don't think that changes much. I get that the Bulls are the ones that are likely to say no, but I disagree that the Pelicans don't see the value in this. And I think for the Magic, who get a quality player in Kobe White and a young shooter in Hawkins, I think they do probably get the best end of this deal. But, as you can see, the people are voicing that, but in a much more extreme way. All right, well, that is it for the trade ideas video. I think it's a fun idea to just see if you can come up with any trades that will get any semblance of a positive response on Reddit. Again, I think I got, the people I got, when you get like a few comments that say this team definitely lost and the other half say this team definitely lost, I think you can take that as a small win. I think I got like one positive comment. I acknowledge my first two trades. The Clippers Nuggets trade, I do agree. I didn't take into account the new arena for the Clippers, and the fact that they don't have their own picks would make it very unlikely that they're looking to trade Kawhi if they're not getting any, draft capital or really good young talent back. The Darius Garland trade also, I think, was pretty bad in retrospect. I was definitely undervaluing Garland, and I think the Spurs have some draft capital that they could offer there, and maybe that makes it more worth it. I do think that the Cavs, with getting Keldon and Harrison Barnes, like that would be a good fit, like two kind of big defensive wings. Not that Barnes is like defensive minded, but he's a great shooter. I think he'd fit well. So maybe with some more draft capital, the Cavs could agree, and Redditors could see what I, kind of had in mind, but I undervalued Darius Garland without a doubt. The Kuzma MPJ trade, I think, was decent. And then that last three-team trade between the Bulls, Magic, and Pelicans, I think is half decent. But I'm interested to see what you guys think of my trades. This is something I just started doing. I don't think they were great trades. I'm going to continue to see if I can get any semblance of a positive response on Reddit. Fingers crossed. I'd love for you guys to try to come up with a trade that people don't immediately hate, because I go through the Reddit. No trade gets any positive response. It is very rare that somebody comes up with a trade where even one Redditor responds that's something they could see happening. So anyway, let me know if this should be a series, if I should keep doing it. Leave your hate comments of why these trades were awful down below, and we'll see you next time for probably the Harold McBasketball podcast.